The Boys. Season finale, last episode of The Boys. They're going to have a couple spin-offs, but right now this is the last episode of the series. They got to get rid of Homelander. That dude's immortal. He's got all the power in the world, but it's just not enough. He's yearning for certain things, certain feelings. He's the villain, but to be honest, they made him the villain because he was a baby, and they nurtured him and directed him and pointed him until he was this thing that they couldn't control. And he just wanted really to be loved. So he wasn't man. So he really spent the whole thing searching for somebody to love him. He wanted Maeve to love him, and he didn't know how to do it, so he forced himself on her. And when she rejected him, he acted harshly. He wanted Stormfront to love him, and when it turned out she couldn't, he mourned her death in a really wacky Homelander-esque way. He wanted the Seven to respect and love him, and they didn't, and he treated them badly. He wanted Stan Edgar's love, and Stan just saw him as bad product, man. So you give a petulant child godlike power and tell him how important love is, and then don't give him love. He's going to act badly. So that's what the conclusion is. Last episode, he wanted Soldier Boy to love him. Soldier Boy's like, nah. So he put him in that lock hold, that full Nelson type deal, and he choked him out. He wanted Ryan to love him, and Ryan wouldn't love him, and he's like, yeah, you will. And he leaves him there, but he found Ryan. He doesn't give him the finger across the throat treatment, so he got lucky. Butcher and the team are on their last leg. They wanna win, of course. They want to get rid of Homelander. They have to get rid of Homelander, but he's immortal now, man. What do you do about that? So they're hoping that Kamiko's Soldier Boy chest blast V reduction power will work. But she won't build up any anger to get it. It's generated through an anger, and she won't do it. So Sister Sage decides she'll volunteer and make her angry and see what happens. And she badmouths her in a horrible way, and Kamiko blasts her, taking away her super intellect, making her what appeared to be barely functional, mentally. And here's the thing, if you're a regular person and you get a super intellect, then you're super smart. If they take it away, shouldn't you just be a regular person again? She was childlike once they took away her super intellect. And I didn't get that. I mean, it made sense that she wouldn't be, super smart. But why did it reduce her to childhood, almost to infancy? I don't know. Maybe she was like that before her powers developed, and she just went back to that. Maybe she got her power when she was a little kid, and taking them put her back there. I don't know. But apparently, that whole thing about her coming up with an idea to beat Homelander, it just failed. She just didn't know what she was doing. Smartest person on the planet. And people are outthinking her. It didn't make sense to me. Smartest person. She figured out Compound V. She found Bomb Site when nobody else could. And she just knew where he was at. She knew where Homelander and Soldier Boy were going to be and at what time. She hid things for them to find. And I didn't get it. She figured out what the Russians did to create the Soldier Boy super chest blast. I don't even think she looked at those videos. She just figured it out on her own. And she even told him, I never check anything 3 times. I did this 3 times. I'm positive it'll work. She never does anything 3 times. She, from childhood, she's been super smart, and she's never had to double check her work because she has always been right. One of her superpowers, according to Vought, was understanding people's emotions. That was a superpower. So it's not like, you look at somebody, they look sad, and you're like, oh, you're sad, and you figure that out. She can do it it's a superpower. And she couldn't figure out what Soldier Boy was going to do, even though she kind of sent him there. It didn't make sense to me. And then Kimiko blasts her and turns her mortal and regular again, which may very well have been what she wanted. I refuse to believe that whole thing. She had no idea what she was doing, but that's what they're giving us. She didn't know what she was doing. So the boys break into the White House, right? And they tell you Homelander knows that they're coming. Oh, Father knows they're coming. They even know which way they're coming from and how they're getting into the building. And they just kind of let them get in. Man, that didn't make sense to me either. I'm like, somebody's coming, and you just let them come. That's okay. Someone's in the building. It's all right. It's Billy Butcher and the boys. Why didn't you stop them? I mean, they tried to stop them, half-heartedly. They set up a trap, and they set up machine gun fire. And that's really it. They got an army of people with superpowered mind powers. Nobody on the boys can stop somebody with mind powers. Homelander had an army of these people. And he didn't stick one of them down there to tell them, you've defeated Homelander and now you can go home. Or, look, Billy is actually Homelander. Kill him. They didn't do none of that. They could have done anything. You think you're in the White House, but you're actually in a vat of, deadly chemicals. Go ahead and walk in. They could have told them to do anything. They had an army of superpowered mind people, an army of dark Professor X's, and they just sent them away from the building. He controls all the soups in America. He controls all the soups in the world. He had them bring them back to America, in his words, from Who Gives a Stand, and brought them back from all over the world. So he was in control of hundreds, if not thousands, of superpowered individuals, plus that army of mentally powered people, plus the security of the White House. And they just let them walk in. And Billy and them just kind of knew that they'd be able to just walk in. Just walk in the White House. Hey, try that. See where that gets you. So they just did it. And then they end up getting into a fight. Now, honestly, the fights were pretty good. The Deep is completely oblivious to what's going on. He thinks that if he shows Homelander he's a good soldier, Homelander will give him, some kind of a job to do, because he doesn't really have a job. Homelander kind of kicked him out of the tower. So he's trying to work his way back in. So he wants to try to unalive Annie. So Annie's like, no, I got it. And she takes him. And I'm thinking, is she going to drop him in the water? They're fighting on a beach. And why she would bring the king of the ocean to a beach without knowing the ocean wanted to kill him, I don't understand that either. But she brought him there. And then she uses her superpowers, boom, and she zaps him into the water, where he's attacked by all manner of predatory aquatic animals. I'm assuming those were sharks, because I saw, the fins hanging out of the water, the dorsal fin, and I'm assuming that was an octopus of some sort, or a squid, or some type of cephalopod, because it grabbed him, And it gave him the same treatment that he gave Black Noir's director. Gave him the right out of the mouth. It was terrible. It was terrible. There's a lot of ways you can go. Me personally, I prefer old age, but there's a lot of ways you can go. That would not be on my list. My list of 100,000 ways to go, that ain't gonna make the list. The octopus shoved its tentacle through him, and there's no coming back from that. I didn't get that though. So now they come into the room and they fight their way to Homelander. And Homelander is being recorded, and he's just starting to go wacky. You can see him, he's reading from the teleprompter, he's talking to America, trying to tell them he's God, and he stops reading, and he just goes nuts. He just starts saying things that even the people, behind the teleprompter, they're looking at each other like, that ain't on the script, what is he talking about? He just starts to go nuts, and that's when they break in. The cameras are still rolling. Everybody runs. Oh, it's the boys. They all run. The boys come in. Billy's got his tentacle powers. Kamiko shows up with her chest blast. And they're fighting against Homelander. And he's pretty much giving him that work. Homelander is their Superman. You can't just run up on him, pulling on his cape as somebody did, and figure you're going to beat him. And while they're fighting him, and he's just working them over, Kamiko starts to light up, and he realizes that, don't take my powers, so he tries to leave. And Billy catches him and brings him back. And then he lasers Billy's tentacles and tries to fight some more. And he's beating them, he's beating both of them, and he's telling them he's gonna unalive them. And then Ryan shows up. So now they've got some extra help, because Ryan he's Homelander light. He's probably a little bit more than a quarter of Homelander's power, because Homelander didn't seem too terribly fazed by anything except his heat vision, but he takes that full on during his fight as if he didn't care. And I'm sure Ryan wasn't doing it because he didn't want to stay alive. He did it as if he was going to die, so he must have hit him full force. And Homelander's just like, I'm going to get you all, starting with you. So he's telling his child that he's going to unalive him. Now, to be honest, his kid was trying to unalive him too, so, I don't know. I hope to never be in that situation where I have to decide if that's a thing that you would do. But he's like, I'm going to get you all, starting with you. So they're all fighting him. Kamiko just can't, she's been saying the last couple of episodes, she just doesn't have that rage in her anymore. So she can't generate the power. There's nobody in front of her bad-mouthing her, so she can't activate the power. And Ryan and Butcher are still getting that work. They're still getting beaten. And she's just like, I can't do it. And then she sees Frenchie. He comes to her in a vision. A lot of people have visions in this show. I wonder if they're really ghosts. Maybe ghosts exist here. They got superpowered people. Maybe it's ghost. But he appears to her and he talks to her and tells her, it ain't about the rage, girl. You just go ahead and do it. And she's like, oh, okay. And apparently that's all she needed. And she blasts Homelander, Billy, and Ryan, because she hit all three of them. And she strips them of their power. And then Homelander, not really certain what happens, tries to use his heat vision. Nothing. And he tries to fly away. Nothing. And he tried to fly like 2 or 3 times. He even jumped a little bit with it. Nothing. So he figures, all right, I still probably got my super strength. Let me just go ahead and knuckle up with Billy Butcher, who is a well-trained CIA assassin, I'm assuming is his full-time job before he went crazy. So he's a government murderer, And he figures, I'm gonna just punch him in the face. Yeah, that didn't work. So he gets a beating, and Billy uses his crowbar much like he did in the comics, and he takes his top off, and that's it. They're done with him. It was a good ending. It was a good fight. It was a couple of good fights, cause the fight with Annie and the Deep, it looked like the Deep might be able to take her. If she didn't blast him at that last minute, he appeared to be stronger than her. And he was trying really hard to get rid of her. So the look on her face was terror. She was like, oh my God, I think I've gotten myself into something. So that was a good fight. The final fight, that was a good fight. They conclude with some stuff that lets you know what's going on in everybody's life. It ends and they're like, this is what's happening with Kamiko. This is what's happening with MM. Billy Butcher is still a little crazy. So this is what's happening with him and Huey. He decides that he's going to go ahead and just get rid of all the soups anyway. I mean, he's not a soup no more, so it probably wouldn't work on him. It might, probably not though. I don't know if the virus would still affect him because he had the V in his system, or would it not affect him because it needs to attach to the V? I don't know. I don't live in that universe. And he was willing to chance it. He was going to release the virus. And unfortunately, he gets unalived by one of his friends. I have questions. It ended well. It was really a good ending, but I have questions. So Black Noir is actually, he's actually gone. I didn't think he was gone because he has not only is he invulnerable, because they were shooting him with that big gun when he went to attack the boys, and it didn't unalive him. He regenerates similar to the original Black Noir. That's one of the reasons they got him. And he can fly. He's got superhuman strength, and he's a narcoleptic. So with narcolepsy, he just passes out randomly. And it could be that he's still feeling a lot of adrenaline, and he could still pass out because he was fighting with the boys, and he just went, and passed out. But the Deep took a knife about that big and stabbed him in the throat, and he bled out. He couldn't get the Deep off him. So the Deep was stronger than him, and he couldn't outfight the Deep. The Deep can't fight, really. So, but he couldn't get him off of him, and he couldn't fly. I assumed that he just passed out, and his regenerative ability probably brought him back. But they made no mention of him. Sister Sage, she intentionally gave up her intellect. I don't know why, because she didn't have to do that. She could have figured out if Kamiko's powers worked without being a target. She had already said she was positive they work. She just kind of, they portrayed it as if she just wanted to show Billy that they worked. And, okay. If you're super rich, you're like a multimillionaire, billionaire, or whatever, and you know something's going to happen where they're going to take your money, you would probably have the foresight to hide some of that money, to put it someplace, bury it in the yard, or put it in your mama's name or something. You would do something with it so that you had it after the fact. She is super smart, super duper smart. And at that moment, she knew that ray was going to take away her intellect. She had been planning things step by step, way in advance. She didn't plan to hide away a little V so she can get her intellect back if she felt like it, if she wanted it. She didn't do anything to protect herself or to prepare for that, the after effects. She just was like, okay. I'm very disappointed in the Sister Sage storyline. Very disappointed. Where's Soldier Boy? He got choked out and put back in stasis. Did nobody release him? The boys were attacking. Nobody said, we need Soldier Boy, unlock the cage and he'll just come back. They didn't do that. Homelander didn't release him at the end. He's just in Homelander's bedroom, still in his underwear, locked up. I don't know, they don't explain. The Deep goes into the ocean and is attacked and unalived by the sea predators. He's got superhuman strength. He couldn't beat them things off of him. He couldn't outswim him. Namor and Aquaman both have fought sea creatures. That's kind of their thing. Both of them are faster than sea creatures and more powerful than most of the things underwater. Both of them have defeated sharks and pushed whales. He wasn't nowhere near that level of power. He was the king of the ocean. Somebody else on that planet had to have had water powers, but they considered him the king of the ocean. There was nobody else who could touch him as far as water stuff. And he just got surrounded. He knew they were coming because he was in the water. He was like, uh-oh. And they just ran up on him. He started swimming, and he swam about as fast as I swim. I'm not going to outrun a shark in the water, but it seems like he should have been able to, but nope. And they just ate him and then shoved a tentacle up him and out him. That was terrible. Is Ryan going to be part of MM's family now? He lost his power. There's no mom, there's no Homelander, there's no Billy. He's just hanging out. I mean, MM even says, come on, kid. And they leave together. So is he part? They don't, they insinuate, but they don't explain exactly what happened. The Gen V kids show up and they take a bunch of people and they're supposed to be taking them to Canada to hide from Homelander. Homelander's gone. Did they still go to Canada? Because they was driving to Canada. So, I mean, they shouldn't have been there before they heard on the news, oh, Homelander's no longer with us. Did they just keep going? Did they drop those people off and come back? Did they just decide to live in Canada? They don't say. It's ambiguous. Homelander was fast enough to keep up with A-Train, who was trying really hard to get away. Previously, we saw that A-Train was fast enough in close quarters that he could dodge Annie's light powers. So she was blasting light at him and he was moving as if everything was in slow motion. So he is at least as fast as light. He was running, trying really hard to get away. Homelander could keep up with him. So Homelander's pretty fast too. So how did Billy catch him? Because Homelander was like, oh, she's got that power. And he was going to fly away. But Billy just sent a tentacle and grabbed him and caught him. How do you catch somebody that fast with a tentacle, a web shooter? It's pretty much like Spider-Man's web shooter. He just went, whoosh, tentacle shot out and wrapped around him and caught him and then brought him back. His forward momentum should have yanked Billy, because Billy just weighs as much as a regular dude. He should have been wrapped around him and been like, and got drugged right out of the building. He shouldn't have been able to stop him and bring him back. He shouldn't have been able to catch him. But he caught him, and I wonder about that. Is Stan Edgar going to want revenge on the boys? Because he is now back in his position. Actually, I think he's in even a higher position with Vought. Is he going to use that incredible power that he has with Vought? Because he said, power isn't this, the moving of the energy and stuff. For him, power is pretty much money. And he's got control of Vought and all of the soups that are up under them. There's still a whole lot of soups in the world. So is he going to get revenge? And if he does, how are they going to protect themselves against all of the superheroes? Another question. Kamiko goes to France, kind of in honor of Frenchie. How'd she get there? Because she barely spoke. At the end, she wasn't talking again. And she didn't have any money. She didn't have a job. So where'd she get enough money to go to France, get a passport, find a place to stay? She was at a real fancy restaurant ordering food. She had a great big, gigantic dog with her. She said she wanted a dog. Where'd all that money come from? Were the boys, did they have money and they just gave her some of it or something? It doesn't explain that. Where are all those mine people? They were working for Homelander, and Homelander gets unalived. Did they just say, man, it's 3 o'clock. I'm off the clock anyway. I'm going home. Did they just leave? Or are they still trying to follow his thing? Old Father's not around anymore. Old Father, he got to work too. So Old Father's not around. So who's in charge of him? Ashley's not around anymore. I would assume, I guess they fall up under Stan now. There's a lot of things that were unresolved. Another one that was a big one. Billy got unalived because he was going to release the soup-killing virus. He said it was in the water system. He was going to push a button, activate the water system at Vought Tower. It would have instantly killed anyone that was in the tower that had Compound V. And then he said within days it'll be around the world. So it spreads pretty quickly, fairly quickly. They just left after Billy got shot. So, where's the virus? Is it still just in there? And the next time the water system comes on, are all of the heroes on the planet, all of the soups, are they going to be unalived? They never show the boys going back to get it. And how do you do that exactly? Do you have to drain the entire system and then scrub it clean? Because if you put bleach or soap in water and then you just drain the water out, you still got a little residue of the bleach or soap. So I imagine a soup virus would be similar. There would be residue. So even if they drain it, when they put more water in, it would just agitate the virus and it would still kind of be there. So, and does anybody even know what's in there? Because Billy said it was in there, but he's gone. And he said that. But that doesn't mean that that's what happened, because when they have that flashback and that mind guy metamorphosizes into his ex-buddy, he tells him he will go out of his way to make sure his mission is complete, even if he has to unalive his friends. So he probably told, Huey a lie. Which would mean that maybe the virus is in there, maybe it's not. Who knows? They don't tell us. But I guess it's something that they could use as a plot for future developments. Either way, I enjoyed the show. A lot of questions about what happened here, what happened there, what's going on with this, but I guess that's pretty much every show. Pretty much every show. Gilligan's Island had several remakes or shows afterwards and stuff, because people were like, are they still on that island? People wonder about things. And I wonder about some of this stuff. But I enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that I would give the boys the entire season, all 5 seasons, 10 bags of popcorn. 10 bags of popcorn. Because that's what I think about that. More importantly, what do you think about that? Let's talk about it in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.